everybody. Hope all is well. This is Zachary King from the Future is Female podcast, and I am here with the beautiful and multi-talented Jordon Campbell. How you doing, Jordon?
I am doing good. Thanks for having me.
I'm so grateful that you're here. You know, your name really rings bells here in this space.
Really? Okay.
Right. In I want to say in about 3 of our guests, they mentioned your name as being so supportive. And so I'm so grateful to have you here.
Wow, that's amazing.
So with that being said, can you please tell our listener audience a little bit about yourself and, you know, what it is that you do?
Sure. I mean, I do a little bit of everything. For my full time, I have a mental health practice called the House of Healing and Transformation. On the side, I'm an actress, a director, pole instructor. I do it all. Do it all.
Okay, we'll go back. Note to self. Go back to that. But okay, so what got you on that journey? Like, what put you on that path to becoming? Let's talk about your profession, right? What got you on the path of becoming a therapist?
Yeah, it's funny because my friend literally just asked me this question, and just thinking about it, I think that like growing up, I used to like watch movies and pretend to be a psychiatrist,
right?
And that's what I went to school for, pre-med and psychology. So I wanted to be like a doctor. And I just wanted to help people. I knew that that's what I wanted to do in some capacity, just to help people. I switched in college and I had dropped the pre-med because it was hard and I could not do it.
Right.
It was a little bit too much. So I did the psychology and Spanish, and kind of like my path and the jobs that I had kind of just led me to where I'm at today.
Got you. Taking that leap of faith, like what was it like? Because you now have your own practice,
yes.
Correct? Mm-hmm. So what was that like for you to decide to say, you know what, I want to do this and I want to offer this on my own terms?
Yeah, it was scary. I'm not going to lie. I always known that I wanted to do it. And I prepared for it for a long time, but I was afraid of taking that risk because I worked for a group practice, and in my mind, I thought that I wasn't going to be able to get clients or be able to financially take care of myself without the owner, the lady who was supplying the clients and things like that. But I always known that this just wasn't for me. Like, this wasn't my permanent position. Like, there was something that was greater. And so I think that God kind of just put stuff into place where I had to leave. You know what I mean? There was just like certain things that was occurring at the practice where it was just like, they don't appreciate you. And, you know, in order for you to get your full appreciation. And also there's a lot of things that I want to do for like, for people of color. There's a lot of things that I want to do for like families and couples, and like I have so many ideas. And I'm like, if you were to build and expand that at this practice, this woman could own, you know, this stuff.
Right.
And so I was finding that I was like dimming my star in order to stay there. So in order for me to grow and really be on my path of like my sense of purpose, I think I have to leave. You know what I mean? And so I asked God in a prayer, I said, just put people in my life who are going to help me, like either get the confidence or to build like the idea of how to do it. And that's what happened. And I quit. And honestly, I always say, I wish I'd done it sooner.
Wow. Wow. So one of the things that you mentioned is you said for God to put people in your life. So that means you have a mentor? Or
So I had a mentor. Yeah, that's funny that you said that. I didn't even think about that. I don't currently have a mentor. But what did happen was the lady who owned the practice, she had hired somebody to help us to become better supervisors. And the lady that she hired was amazing. And I kind of have my guard up when it comes to jobs, especially, you know, me being a woman of color. If it's someone who's a supervisor and they're not of color, I have a little bit of more, I'm guarded in the information I'm given. And so there was one particular time when it was just me and her. And I just felt safe. And I started to tell her about like the stuff that was occurring. And she really like helped me to be like, you know, these are the different avenues that you could take if you really are serious about leaving. And yeah, she really helped me a lot in that regard. Mm-hmm.
Got you. What are some of the other, or are there any other women that you may have draw strength from, like you may look at as an inspiration?
Yeah. You know, I have a lot of friends too who are entrepreneurs, like Levita is an entrepreneur. And like I have my other friend, her name is Julie, and she's a mom, and she has a husband, and she has like 2-3 businesses, and she makes it work. And so just seeing how these women can make it work. They have different hustles. They just learn to figure it out.
Right.
It gives me like the faith too of like, okay, you're gonna have your peaks and valleys. You know what I mean? And you have to be ready to ride the wave. Really, if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's not going to be great 100% of the time.
Got you. Now you talked a little bit about faith and just trusting in God. Mm-hmm. So how have your faith and being a believer have helped you along this path?
Well, I mean, I think that once you start to go down the path of like where you think God has instilled in you, like your purpose of how you're going to help people or how you're going to grow, you start to get more signs of like confirmation. And I think that that's when I started to trust in God and not trying to go against the grain. That's when things just started to fall into place. And even like last year, so last year was the year I started the practice, and my first few months were pretty good. But then like towards the summer, it like dwindled, and I wasn't making as much as I was making before. And I was nervous about that. I'm like, did I make the wrong choice? But what ended up happening was God had somebody called me out the blue, an old coworker, and was like, you know, we had this opportunity at this startup company where you can get a salary and you get like PTO with them. Right. And I'm like, you know, even those moments where you're worried about money, God knows that. And so like, I didn't have to apply for this job. The job found me, you know what I mean? And that was on the side. And I actually have this one client who she's an entrepreneur, but she's talking about quitting her full-time job. And she's looking for like another job too on the side. And I told her, I said, when you make that risk, if you need money, you won't have to apply for the job. Like it's going to find you because God's going to have your back.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I tell you, since I started this journey, I tell you, so many of the things that I was worried about have just lined up. Yeah. And I'm not exactly at a place right now where the money have found me. I'm not there. Mm-hmm. I'm not going anywhere with money. So if you want to find me, I'm right here. But yeah. But I see where it is potentially going. Like I can see that it's growing beyond what I would have thought of. Like it's like, wow, just in this little bit of time, I see this. My 6 month to a year goal is to have Sherelle Parker on this platform.
Oh, nice.
So, and so it's like, I'm definitely see that if I continue going, I'm going to get her attention. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool right there. Tell me about some of your challenges. Hold on. First and foremost, what are your client base? Like, who do you particularly speak with as well?
So most of my clients are couples. I do have a few families and individuals. So I had started a business during COVID called Mindfully Melanin. And the goal in my mind was really to provide like mental health services to people of color. And like I wanted to like mesh the creative side too. Mm-hmm. Like with the acting, because sometimes people aren't able to fully communicate their feelings, but they can express it through forms of art. So that's what Mindfully Melanin was. And so when I worked at the group practice, I was getting an influx of clients from all walks of life, really. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so like my main source, I do want to like provide services for people of color, but it's open to all types. Yeah.
Right. So when you do provide service for people of color and couples especially, what are some of the biggest challenges that you feel like you have?
I think, if we're talking about couples, I think a lot of people don't realize that when you're like having a partnership, you're really just meshing two bags of trauma, honestly, and you're trying to figure out how to make it work in a partnership. And so I think it's important to figure out your own path and to heal yourself individually when it comes to being in a couple, because it usually just bubbles up to the surface anyway, regardless if like this is like the perfect match, you think that you found your person, y'all are soulmates, whatever, you still have stuff from the past that you have to deal with. When it comes to the individuals, like what I found, it's a wide range. I do a lot of work with like family systems and like family trauma that will help them work through. Also, sometimes there's like trauma, like church trauma, religion trauma, things like that I help them work through too.
No, that's absolutely true. And I appreciate that. During COVID, a lot of couples broke up.
Yes.
Right? It was a lot of divorces. A lot of couples broke up. And my thinking behind that is because people didn't like each other. We got into these relationships because it might have looked good because it was the highlight reel.
Right.
We was always going out. We was always doing something.
Right.
We was on social media as that power couple. But when it became nothing to do and we actually had to sit with each other and enjoy each other's company, it became excruciating.
Definitely.
And people said, "Nah, I'm okay."
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate that approach. What are some of the ways in which that you would, like how do you counsel couples get through that part right there? What are some of like the tangibles that you use to actually help and counsel couples?
Yeah. So if that's kind of the issues that they're going through, because what you're describing is during COVID, there was no way to escape. Because you weren't able to go out, you're stuck in the house with this individual. So what I'd like to work with my couples, I do like, first I'll have like the first session with the both of them, and then I'll have something called breakout sessions. And that's when I'm meeting with each one individually. In the breakout sessions, I do like a deep dive into like your family history and start to figure out like what are certain patterns that have shown up in your family. Also, like what are their communication styles? How was affection shown? Things like that.
Right.
So that it makes it easier for me to understand. And also the person, as we're unpacking this, of like, oh, it isn't about the dishes, right?
Right.
It's maybe, back in the day, my mom used to yell at me all the time about the dishes. And then when my wife does it, it just reminds me of that. And that's what I'm fighting against. You know what I mean? So it also helps your partner understand this a little bit more and have more empathy, because a lot of times when you're so fed up with somebody repeatedly doing something, your empathy goes out the window.
Right.
But if you start to understand like where it's coming from, then it's like, okay, maybe I'll be more curious with this person about what actually is going on, instead of just seeing that they're doing this intentionally.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that I tell people, I feel myself telling this to women very often, but when it comes to men, because I'm a man, I'll tell women, I say, give us some grace. Give us some patience. A lot of us, we didn't come from great backgrounds. And I understand that we're not, I don't want to say dropping the ball, but we may not be living up to our full expectation. Right? And I don't think that it's because it's intentional. It's just that we really just don't know. And we're trying to find out. So as a black man talking to a black woman, what can we do to help lighten the load of the black woman? What are you saying that we're just not listening to?
I think just as much as you're asking for grace, black women need grace too. I think that there is a stereotype about black men, a stereotype about black women, and about how we're angry, how we're like aggressive, like the angry black woman. We've all heard about that. And if we're addressing something, it doesn't mean that we're angry. It's just that we're addressing something, and look at it more in a way of like, and I get it, tone and everything and approach that is important. But if somebody is addressing something in an even tone, don't villainize that person, because if you look at it in a different way, they're giving you the opportunity to change it so that y'all can have a better relationship. Because again, if you're doing something repeatedly, then and let's say you don't know that you're making this person upset by doing it, with them telling you that could give you the potential to change that behavior. So now, your relationship no longer has that issue.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I do think you're absolutely right. We do need to give each other a little bit more grace and actually listen to some of the things and what somebody is saying. And I love that word that you use as villainizing and also weaponizing, because there's so many times where somebody there seems to be in the current trend to be as men need to express themselves. Men need to be, more open and, show more emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
But then it's like when we do speak about our issue, it become weaponized. It become used against us.
Yeah.
And it's like, remember the time your mama ain't do this? And it's like, now you didn't throw up my trigger. Now I'm defensive with you. Now I don't trust you.
Right.
So I definitely think both sides got some things to work on. What about the importance? Let's talk about the importance of finding a therapist.
Yeah. I think finding a therapist is extremely important. I mean, I got a therapist. Therapist got a therapist. You know what I mean? The reason why I think it's important is because, we got enough going on in the world that we have to fight against. And also, we have current demons that we have to battle, and also stuff from the past that we have to battle. And we're still trying to navigate having relationships and friendships with other people. No. And it's good to have a good community and friends, but sometimes your friend ain't going to tell it to you like it is.
Right.
And, they're going to give you advice because they love you, and they might sugarcoat it because they love you, and they're really not going to tell you what you need to do. But even in therapy, it's not that we're telling you what to do, is that we understand that you already know what to do. And we're kind of like your cheerleaders helping you unlock, the tools that you already have, and helping you to understand it too. Because I think that it's a beautiful thing to, when, let's say it's angry black woman. Let's say there's an angry black woman, right?
Right.
Come into the session, and that's all that's being exhibited, the anger. And when you start to unpack why, then for them, it's oh my gosh, I'm not this angry person. I'm a hurt person.
Right.
And now that I have the knowledge of what brought me here, now I have the power to undo it. So that's why I think therapy is extremely important.
No, I believe so too. The only thing that I'm a little bit, I don't know, concerned, that's the word, that I'm concerned for, because it becomes so trendy, all these words of healing and this and that. I'm afraid that it's going to become so, I don't want to say popularized, but we're going to water it down. We're going to say, yeah, I'm in therapy, and they're going to still act a fool, and they're going to say, well, it'll just become like a justification at this point, because I think therapy is very important. Yeah. So I definitely appreciate that as well. When you speak to men, what are some of their concerns? What do they tell you? How do you build that trust with a man as well?
I love my men clients, because, especially my black men clients, because whether I'm meeting with them individually or meeting them when they're in a couple, the first session, I tend to get, I call it the bouncer. And the bouncer is the person, when you get into a club, the bouncer's out there and not letting you get in until they understand that you're safe enough to be in this establishment. So when I say that I get the bouncer, is I get the person tiptoeing around their feelings, tiptoeing around certain issues, because they have to make sure that I'm a safe person to unload what's going on. So I make sure to create that safety in the room, so that they're able to really feel comfortable with telling me their true feelings. And I'll be getting them too. I'll be having y'all crying in my session.
I was going to say, I wanted to ask the question, do you think that it's easier to get a man to open up than a woman?
You know what? I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I think that women have more outlets of doing it outside of the session, because it's
champion. It's like
right.
it's okay, girl. You could cry, you could fight, you
Right.
could fuss.
Right.
With us, it's like, man, if you don't man up, if you don't toughen up. And
Right.
I remember one time a few years ago, I hugged an old friend of mine. Right now, she was just like, she was a girlfriend, but she became like a really good friend. She gave me a hug, and I promise I almost like folded in her arms because it felt so safe.
Yes.
And I noticed that even too, I have a female therapist, and I know I'd be like, yo, I know she got to be like, after our session, she like, whew, I'm so glad he's out of here because I unload everything. It's like that safety, that safe space right there, So I totally get that as well. With that being said, what does your detox process look like? What do you do?
So I try to run like in the mornings, and that really is a stress reliever. I know a lot of y'all listening like, you crazy, like running, no thank you. But like for me, it really is a stress reliever. I just have my music on, and sometimes I'll take a walk, listen to a podcast, listen to like an audiobook, and that helps me. I find joy in taking baths at the end of the night with a glass of wine. That's so good. Being with my friends, my family. I have pets, a lot of pets, 2 dogs and a cat, and they give me joy. So, and I travel a lot too. So I try to, just find those moments throughout the day to have to myself.
Right.
And then that allows me to recharge and be present for my clients. Got
you. Switching gears a little bit, let's talk about your acting, because you are an accomplished actress as well. And ironically, one of her dopest movies is The Therapist. That is crazy within itself. So that's the other side of therapy. That's the dark side of therapy. But yes, let's talk about your acting and how long you've been doing it for, and what led you down that path.
Yeah, so I have been acting for, I would say like serious acting. Well, getting into plays really. I lived in Maryland, and when I graduated college, my goal is, I had this friend, well, 2 of my friends. We were going to move to LA. I was going to do acting. One was going to be there for, I think it was hairstylist, and the other one was going to be a designer. They didn't have no job. And the plan to go to LA was foiled, but right. I was in Baltimore, and I'm like, okay, I still want to act. So I started to do plays in Baltimore. And then I moved to Philly, and it was a little bit harder to get into the industry. And then my friend Chanel, she had a movie called Fawn, and I auditioned for it. And then when I got a part in there, that's when the film started to open up for me. So not to date myself, because I said with college, so probably been doing this for about 15 years.
Wow. No, that's
with the plays and stuff. Yeah.
That's good. So you mentioned it. So how is the Philadelphia film scene here? And be honest.
I mean, I think it could be a little cliquish. I think I hope there is a change of like really looking and seeking for like real, like just talent instead of like, I'm just going to put somebody I know in this film. Like, as a matter of fact, like when I wrote a film as well, it's called The Deepest Cut. And when I wrote the film, it's a movie on mental health. And I'm playing the lead actor, and I told myself that if I'm not able to deliver how I envision this role, I will fire myself. Right. And so I think that needs to be important when there's projects out there of like, who can really deliver this role, as opposed to I'm just trying to put my friend on. Right.
No, I think that is very important, and I definitely appreciate that leadership. That's actually one of the roles that I have taken on in this position as well. Was kind of like, well, if I'm not living up to my full potential here, or let me say, not my, but to the podcast full potential, then it's time for me to remove myself. Right. Then it's time for me to remove myself, and it's time for me to put someone else in this position that could deliver. Because at the end of the day, I feel like this message has to be delivered. Right. And whether I'm here or not, it gotta go. So I definitely feel that as well. Have you ever tried other places? Like, have you ever tried to like go into like New York and everything else?
Yeah.
Even back to LA?
No, I haven't tried LA. I tried, so in that period of time when I wasn't finding projects in Philadelphia, I was going to workshops in New York with casting directors because that was seen as like a way for them to see your face in these workshops so that they could possibly consider you for roles.
Right.
And I went to one, and it was a woman that helped. I forgot what she helped cast. Hustle and Flow. She helped cast Hustle and Flow and a few other projects. And the lady who was helping her out was, everybody's seen Precious, I'm sure.
Right.
You remember the Jamaican in Precious?
Don't remember.
Rhonda with the gold tooth, the short hair.
I think I might have. I'm gonna be honest. I think I might have seen Precious and walked out. So yeah,
It's intense.
It was. It was intense. But you know what though? Precious to me brought up a lot of trauma.
Yes.
Like it really did. We could talk about it, but it really did. It really brought up a lot of trauma for me because growing up in that type of atmosphere with the yelling and the belittling,
Yes.
so that was really rough, right there. And it was something that so many of us, we have become normalized in our community, like where we just like, yeah, our black mom would do this and our black mom would do that. And, I remember my mom used to beat me and stuff. And it's like, we wonder why our community could be so violent.
Yes.
Because there's no real conflict resolution.
Right.
From an early age, we learned that if you got a problem with somebody, you handle it violently. And again, I don't want to go to the other extreme where we see them, but we do have to be able to have that conversation and say,
definitely.
hey, so I definitely feel that right there. I'll definitely feel that right there. So cool.
Yeah.
All right. So finish telling me about your acting, or you know what? Tell me about like your influences of acting. Like what like is there anyone that you look to and say, man, I model my acting or method behind them? Is there anyone?
I can't say there's someone that I model my method behind. That's a good question.
Okay.
No, I just watch a lot of movies and kind of like can picture myself in the scenes and stuff like that. But I can't really pinpoint and be like, yes, I model. Actually, no. The lady who's in Grey's Anatomy, Miranda.
Okay.
I think she's really good.
Okay.
I like Viola Davis too.
Viola Davis. Yeah, she is definitely dope.
Yeah.
And you know what else too? She is a testimony of resilience.
Yes.
Because she's been in the game forever.
I read her book, yeah.
And she was not always recognized.
Exactly.
She was not always looked upon. She got overlooked a lot.
Yep.
A lot. So for her she went homeless. She was home. Her and her husband was homeless. And I'm grateful too that she had a husband, because it shows that oftentimes when a narrative is, women are on their own and that there's no men that are actually there.
Right.
So as a man to hear that, it's like, yeah, I'm grateful for that opportunity to hear that kind of thing right there. Where do you see yourself going with the acting thing? Like if the acting thing was to, if you was to get called to LA and work on, maybe a major, huge project, will you still be into therapy? Like, what's that about?
I still would, I wouldn't be like firsthand where I'm the one sitting in the seat, but I still supervise. I supervise a lot of clinicians. I actually want to transition out of doing just like being the one-on-one, and I want to do more supervision. I want to do more consultations and retreats. And if the acting were to take off, I would figure out a way of like writing more movies or shows that had to deal with mental health in the Black community, and tackling some of those things. I think that there's so much to say, and I have tons of ideas of like different disorders I want to kind of like look at, certain topics that I want to like make into film, so it can be a conversation piece, and it can also be a way for others to go on their own path of healing.
No, I think you should really do that as well, because yes, I do think you're a dope therapist, and I hear what you got going on. But I love the idea that you're introducing these conversations to a mainstream, because a lot of us, men especially, we are hurting.
Yeah, definitely.
We need someone that could talk about mental illness and talk about certain things, and our women as well. One of my biggest reasons for wanting to do this platform is because I felt like they kind of destroyed back in the 80s and 90s where they had like a really lot of poor images of black men.
Right.
It was always, every time you see a black man, he had a do-rag on, his pants sagging to the floor. He had some type of gang sign. So they really did a terrible job they did a great job of destroying the black male image. I feel as though that's happening right now with the black woman.
Yes.
Every time you turn on social media, you hearing the angry black woman, the woman that's the cliche of seeing the woman with a bunch of kids on welfare. So this was my pushback to that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show like this is where a woman is not twerking. She's not cursing. There's no neck rolling.
Right.
We might get into a few heated discussions, but it's coming from a place of love. We're not coming from a place to tear each other down. We're actually listening.
Right.
So I appreciate your platform and what you're trying to do. And I would just encourage you to keep going.
Thank you.
From there. Let me ask you this question. With all that you got going on and all that you do, how do you overcome your self-doubt? Because that voice could be a mother.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
That voice could be a mother.
Definitely. That's a really good question.
Because I could look at you and be like, yo, you're successful. You've been all over the world. In case you don't know, let's go through a little bit of a rundown of all the places you've been. Let's go through it. Let's go through it.
All right. So we got Bali, Spain, South Africa, Portugal, France, the Netherlands, Peru, Colombia, Costa Rica, Mexico. A lot of Bahamas, Jamaica,
a lot of places. A lot of places. So you have your own successful practice. You're a very beautiful woman.
Thank you.
You act. So with all them things going on, I know that little voices in your head that be talking to you like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Are you seriously going to attempt to try to do this?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. We all have that little voice that tells us not to do certain things. And I have my moments where I think like my biggest fear is being mediocre, to be quite honest. So, when I have these moments where I'm fighting really hard for something and it doesn't happen, I do get into the dumps about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is because you're average. This is because you're mediocre. Like this is reiterating, stay in your lane.
Right.
And, when I get into those moments, I give myself permission to feel it. And then it's like, oh, so what you going to do? You're going to stay mediocre?
Right,
you have to fight against that to prove yourself wrong. You know what I mean? But I do have my moments where I can definitely get really down on myself.
Right.
And also it's important to have a strong community of friends who can check you and be like, do you know who you are? You know what I mean? And again, falling back on like the faith too, you get those moments that reiterate like you're better than what you think.
Right. No, that is true. I know for me, one of the things I always tell myself is you could either be the shark or the goldfish, and it's like, okay, what I do with this decision right now? Do I be the shark? And what do being the shark involve with? And the reason why I use shark, I use eagle, I use wolf. And the one thing they all have in common is they all loners, and I just got it in my head that to walk the path that I'm going, I'm not going to have a lot of support.
Yeah.
I got to do it on my own. If I don't do it, no one else will, nobody's going to come do it for me. And that helps me. But I loved how you put it. Like, this is just trying to reinforce the argument that I need to stay in my lane and I need to get out of that.
Right.
Being a boss is a choice, you know, being a boss. And I just don't, sometimes it bothers me that we try to romanticize this entrepreneur journey, especially with women, because it's like, ladies got it a little rough. Ladies got it hard. So I wanted to have women here, such as yourself, that can speak on that, to say, hey, little girl, this is what you're going to come across.
Yes.
This is what you're going to come against.
Yes.
So I definitely appreciate that. In closing, is there anything that you would like to leave us with? Oh, no. One question I really want to ask you. When you do your roles, like what role have you done so far that you was like, yo, this one is it? I'm going to go with the therapist.
Yeah,
I'm going to put the therapist out there. I'm going to go with the therapist.
I would say the therapist, when my movie, The Deepest Cut, comes out,
okay,
they will go hand in hand, because the therapist, the reason why I liked it so much, and it's crazy because Mark and Rashira, I would be on set, or I did plays with them too. And they're the ones that created the therapist. And I would be on set talking about like here and there some crazy sessions I might have had, not in detail because we respect HIPAA, but like, but just like briefly talking about something. And Rashira one day was like, yo, it would be crazy if there was like a marriage therapist that was like sleeping with one of the clients. And then she created the therapist. Right. And so I was able to have fun with that one the most because it's totally not my character, but I like scary movies. I like thrillers. So I can play up on what I would like to see in a film. And then The Deepest Cut is about somebody who goes through like a traumatic event and is working through, and then she finds love, but she's working through kind of what I was talking about earlier, as far as like you got to deal with your baggage if you're going to make a relationship successful. And so she has to figure out like, am I going to like continue to fake the funk and make this relationship work without healing my demons? Or am I going to make the decision to finally like tackle some of this stuff? Which can be scary because healing can be scary too.
Healing is hella scary.
Yes.
It is not, it is facing, I mentioned this before, just I think on maybe in the last few episodes, that I said when I went to prison, right? One of the scariest parts of going to prison was not actually going that way, right? It was, I mean, that was, that had its place, but it was a side of me that said, I know how to fight. I'm resourceful. I know I probably see a lot of people in here that I know, so I'm good. I'm good. The scariest part was being alone at night and being in that room with just my thoughts. Yeah. Like that was the scariest part about it. It was like, oh my God, that's really in my head. Yes. And addressing that thing. Yes. Coming home, I know one of the things that I'm trying to get back to is that place of isolation to face them demons now. Okay. Yep. Full transparency. It's easy to involve yourself with women. It's easy to involve yourself with your phone and the different distractions than to deal with them things. Exactly. But only when you deal with them things that you come to a place of healing. Definitely. And able to address them things now. Yes, definitely. So it's not easy. Not easy at all. Not easy at all. But I thank you for your time, your effort, your energy, your story. It was amazing. I'm grateful to have you on this platform. Thank you. Is there anything that you want to say? Please tell people where they can find a therapist and where they can find you at, because all the directors that are listening to this thing right here, if you need an actress right here, you have one, okay? Right here. Right here. So please. Yes. So you can find me, my therapist page is the House of Healing Counseling on Instagram. And the website is www.thehouseofhealingandtransformation.com. I know that's a mouthful, but it's okay. thehouseofhealingandtransformation.com if you're looking for a therapist. And for acting, my acting page is Jordon Cam, JORDONCAM 091 on Instagram. And yeah, check out The Therapist. It's on Tubi. There's other things that I've acted in that are on Tubi as well, like Money Lovers, Work Bay, Killer Baby Mama. Killer Baby Mama. I got to play that crazy role a little bit. So. Right. And Tubi is doing it. Tubi is doing it. They have more views, I think, in the month of May than like Disney and a couple other places. Yeah, Tubi is definitely dope. So, but again, thank you for your time. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you so very much. I am Zachary King, and this is The Female is the Future podcast. I'm gone.